Hello everyone, welcome to this video. Now here's something that most candidates preparing for the PRINCE2 Practitioner exam completely miss, okay? Having the right study materials is one thing, but having a strategy to actually use them properly, that's a completely different conversation altogether. And that gap right there is exactly where most candidates lose their exam. Hi, I am Ray and I'm an authorized training provider or an ATO for PRINCE2 with Axelos and People Cert. And in this video, I'm going to walk you through the 5 key study materials and strategies specifically built for the PRINCE2 Practitioner level exam, okay? Now make sure you stay till the end of this video because the last one is the one which is most obvious, but it's left out by most of the candidates. Let's get into it. All right, so let's start with the first material in your PRINCE2 Practitioner arsenal, okay? And this one might surprise you because it's not a book, it's not a course, and it's also not a mock exam, okay? It's a study plan. And yes, a well-structured study plan is very much a study material in its own at the practitioner level of the PRINCE2 exam. Now, most candidates sit down, they sort of open the manual and start reading the first page of the manual from day one, right? And that approach, mind you, is precisely what makes candidates complacent, and also it makes them inefficient as well, because the PRINCE2 Practitioner exam does not reward reading, okay? It rewards application. So what does a proper study plan for the PRINCE2 Practitioner actually look like? Now to build that, you need to map your available preparation weeks against the core content areas of the exam. The 7 principles, the 7 practices, the 7 processes, and the management products. And you have to allocate study time accordingly. Now that would mean providing equal weightage to all the study topics and thereby having a well-rounded preparation rather than a good preparation, let's say in one of the topics, and a worse preparation in another. Now personally, I always recommend that students or candidates gives themselves a minimum of 4 to 6 weeks of focused preparation for the PRINCE2 Practitioner exam. Not because the content of the syllabus is difficult, because the application mindset for the exam takes time and practice to build, okay? And you cannot rush that. Now, if you are just starting out and you want a solid foundation before diving into the practitioner level of the PRINCE2 exam, I do have a free ebook ready for you to download. And if you would like to book a one-to-one call with me directly to speak to me about your PRINCE2 exam preparation plans or anything which you might think would be helpful, you have a link for that as well. Both of the links will be available in the description section of this video. Now, let's talk about the next study material, which is the official PRINCE2 Managing Successful Projects 7th edition manual. And this is where I want you to pay very close attention. Now, you may have already read this book for your PRINCE2 Foundation exam, okay? But here is the thing. Reading the PRINCE2 manual for the foundation and reading it for the practitioner level are two completely different exercises. See, if you think about it, the PRINCE2 Practitioner exam tests you at Bloom's taxonomy levels 3 and level 4, okay? Now, what does that mean in practice? Level 3 is application and level 4 is analysis. So the exam is not really asking you that what something is, okay, just to be applied from memory. In fact, it's asking you that what would you do with that product or with that management artifact, and what would be its application in a specific project scenario. Now that is fundamentally a different cognitive demand. So when you go through the manual for the practitioner level exam preparation, you really cannot skim, okay? You cannot summarize and just memorize as well. You need to read each practice, each process, each management product with one question in your mind, that how would this be applied on a real project? That level of engagement with the manual is what the practitioner exam will demand from you on the exam day, right? So treat the manual as your primary thinking and analysis tool, okay? Not just a reference document. Now, let's talk about the practice questions as one of the key study materials for your exam, right? And this is an area where I see candidates making the same mistakes over and over again. Now, most candidates complete a mock exam, check their score, feel either relieved or disappointed and move on, right? Now, this approach makes candidates complacent, okay? Because think about it, completing a practice question is not the same from learning from it, right? The real discipline here is reviewing your response or your performance in the mock exam. For every single question that you have solved and you have got wrong, you need to ask yourself three things. What did the scenario actually tell me? Which practice or process was being tested, and why was my answer incorrect relative to the PRINCE2's framework and logic, okay? That review process done consistently is what builds the application mindset for the PRINCE2 Practitioner exam. Now, I do understand this, that the type of questions for the PRINCE2 Practitioner exam itself takes getting used to, okay? They are scenario based, they are complex, inferential. However, that is precisely why I have a few videos on this channel as well, where I walk you through sample PRINCE2 practitioner level questions and solve them with you step by step. So please do make use of those videos as part of your preparation. So working through these solved examples alongside with your own practice attempts is one of the most efficient and effective ways to sharpen your exam technique. And please be very cautious with third-party exam dumps, okay? Possibly you could have come across it over Udemy or eBay, okay? Because they are often misaligned with the 7th edition PRINCE2 syllabus. They have no instructor behind them, no accountability, and it's really not worth the risk. Now this brings me to the fourth material, and this one is very critical. Not all mock questions are created with the equal difficulty level, right? And that is not a small distinction. So free resources on the platforms like Udemy or some third party which you get on eBay, or some generic question banks floating around on Telegram, very often do not capture the actual difficulty level of the PRINCE2 Practitioner exam. The questions are either too straightforward, or they are misaligned to the 7th edition syllabus, or simply not scenario based in the way PRINCE2 will actually test you in the exam. So please make sure that the mock questions you are solving as part of your practice comes from an authorized training provider, okay? Because according to the PRINCE2 guidelines, authorized training providers have to build their question banks to reflect the real exam's cognitive demands, okay? Which are the Bloom's level 3 and 4, as I have explained previously. So if I just give you an example, if you have seen my PRINCE2 Foundation exam mock question bank, and if you have practiced through it, you will see that those questions are exactly aligned to the type and the difficulty level that you will find in the actual exam. And here is something I want you to internalize as well, right? Every single practice question you solve, right or wrong, contains a core learning point, okay? Do not just chase the correct answer. Understand why each answer choice is correct or wrong, okay? And that is where the real learning happens. Now, interestingly, my own PRINCE2 Practitioner mock question bank and the exam simulator is coming out very soon. So if you wish to avail it, the link will be in the description section of this video and in the pinned comments below as well. But till then, if you are still preparing for your foundation level of the exam, you have my exam simulator through which you can practice. Now, the fifth and the final strategy, and this one is the one that almost every candidate leaves for too late, okay? So as you approach your exam date, your preparation needs to shift from the learning mode to the consolidation mode, right? Now, what that simply means is you stop trying to absorb any new content, okay? And you start strengthening what you have already learned. Now, there is also the logistics side of your preparation, and candidates consistently underestimate how much planning and preparation should go into preparing your exam logistics well, okay? So whilst planning your exam logistics, you should have answers to these questions, okay? So do you know exactly from where you would be writing the exam? Is your ebook access confirmed and working on your device, which should be in flight mode ideally? Or do you have a hard copy of the manual with you? Have you practiced navigating the manual at speed? So these are not minor details, okay? On the exam day, any one of these gaps can cost you very, very valuable minutes. And in a 150-minute exam with 70 questions, which roughly gives you about 2.5 minutes for every question, you simply cannot afford that. Now, personally, as part of my PRINCE2 Practitioner training, I dedicate specific sessions to help you plan your exam logistics well, okay? The final week game plan, revision prioritization, exam day logistics, time management strategies inside the exam itself, etc., etc. Because, as I was mentioning at the very beginning of the video, that knowing the content is one thing. However, walking into that exam room composed, prepared, and with a clear plan, that is a completely different conversation altogether. So please do not overlook this final exam preparation phase, okay? It matters more than most candidates realize until it's too late. So that's it. If you have any questions about your PRINCE2 Practitioner or Foundation exam preparation, or you would like to explore the training options with me, please do reach out to me on my email address, which is now displayed on the screen. If you have liked the video, please press the like button, and I'll see you again in the next one.